Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Absolute Bookkeeping Podcast. This is actually one of our Christmas specials. Today I am joined by Aaron. Aaron, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your business and also the clients you actually deal with.
Definitely, and thank you for having me on. And if you tell me it was a Christmas special, I will a Christmas hat for you. my name's Aaron Patrick. I am a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer for QuickBooks. I'm also an owner of a accounting firm called Boffix, and one more coming soon, but that's all TBC. And then I am also the QuickBooks Chap on the internet. So I go live to the world to talk about all things QuickBooks. And finally, I'm a podcaster as well, like yourself, on Ask the Accountant Network.
Fabulous. So how did your journey begin in our accounting world? What made you want to become an accountant?
By accident.
Okay. Like most of us, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who's like, yeah. No, but for me, it was, I always wanted to be a teacher. That was always going to be my first port of call out of school. I remember doing my school, where you go and do your work experience and all that sort of stuff. And there was nothing in there for teaching that I could do, but there was an accountancy position. So I thought, oh, yeah, I'll give that a go. It sounds like it could be a good laugh sort of thing. Went there, they offered me a job during that work experience. And I thought, you know what, let's see how it goes sort of thing. Did my apprenticeship through AAT, then became ICAW, and kind of worked my way up from there. And then took on the opportunity to take on my own practice. What we got now, about 600 clients, and majority of them are, limited companies and sole traders.
What is the one word that you would describe your relationship currently with technology in your business?
Oh,
just
loving
one
it.
word.
Loving it. Does loving it count as love it? I'm going to cheat.
Kind of, yeah. So you basically love technology. Technology is sort of breathes life into what you do, kind of thing.
Yeah, without it, I wouldn't have my practice, without a doubt. Like, the advent of cloud technology, for accounting systems and everything else, the fact that now pretty much any device I have, I can get access to get some work done. I've filed a tax return in VR before. I'm trying to embrace as much of the technology as I possibly can, just to see how far I can take it, right? Like kick the tires, see how far it's going to be. And, that whole idea of being an early adopter is all about trying to get out your comfort zone, isn't it? And try different technology and make things that work. And, I tried to do some work on the train the other day, varying parts of success, but it's like you're trying different ways of doing things, right? And I think that's part and parcel of why I really enjoy our profession at the moment, because I feel like we're in this massive change and we're accelerating at such a good pace that I'm loving every moment of it.
Fabulous. So let's talk about favourites. What is the one app or software you simply could not run your business without? What are you championing today?
Well, obviously Zero. No, look, I actually do like Zero. I've got good clients on everything else, but obviously the answer for me is my persona, which is the QuickBooks Chap. Has to be QuickBooks. I mean, without it, I wouldn't be where I'm sat today. I wouldn't be invited on podcasts like this. I wouldn't have the opportunity to speak on stage. I wouldn't have the clients that I've got, right? So it has to be QuickBooks for me. And especially with the fact that it's going through its own mini revolution at the moment. It's starting to have all these extra functionality to it and everything else. Yeah, without it, I don't think I 100% wouldn't be where I am today.
So how did you discover it? And was it a game changer from day one, or was it kind of a slow burner that the more you used it, the more you actually fell in love with it?
Great question. So for me, it was definitely a game changer from day one. And the reason is because at the time I was working in a top 50 firm, and we were going through this process of trying to figure out which of the cloud accounting processes or products, I say, was right for our firm. And it was a whole evaluation, and we were going through your leading ones, if you like. So Zero at the time, QuickBooks at the time, Sage 1. There was other ones that we're going through. And being a much larger firm, they just handpicked certain people from each of their sectors and each of their buildings. And I was locations. I was one of the ones who got chosen. And I was on this like committee, if you like, of trying to check them all out. And the reason that QuickBooks gravitated to me was the fact it was the only one at the time where I could mold it for what I needed to do. We were in a really niche scenario for our firm, especially our particular sector of the firm that I was in, and it was all medical accountancy. So it was doctors and dentists and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots and lots of elements that we had to be really mindful of and careful of, and we had to try and figure out and work around. And most of it meant that we had to use bespoke software. And bespoke software is great until NHS comes along and goes, no, you're not allowed to install any software on your computers going forward. So we were in a position where like doctor surgeries were having to have this separate computer in the back office that would run their accounting software, and then they would have the rest of the software, and it caused loads and loads of conflicts. So that's why we as for our firm, we had to have cloud technology. That was an absolute must for us to be able to service our clients properly. We just couldn't make the others fit. It was like a round peg going into a square hole scenario, right? Whereas QuickBooks just gave us all of the tools we needed to mold it to what we needed for the time. So day one, it was a game changer for us in our practice, because it allowed us to be able to replace bespoke software with cloud software straight away. Yes, there was some teething points. Yes, there was, we had some learnings to go through and everything else. But I was able to develop an app for it. I was able to create these fancy spreadsheets. I was able to take one database from one to another. I was able to mold QuickBooks for what we needed it to be. And that's where the relationship started for me. It was like, it just gave me that confidence to go, right, this is a solution that we should be investing in and working with, because this is a solution that's going to help us actually deliver value to our clients.
So what would you say the key problems that QuickBooks solved? I mean, I remember my first introduction with QuickBooks was the fact that they had this fantastic deal where you could have £1 a license for the life of that license you held. And I think that's what introduced me. And it was just blew my mind that the only thing we knew was this desktop software. And this now, I could use any device to actually access it, which was random. I'm no more sitting in one place to work.
Yeah, I think there's two bits for me. First of all was, the advent of cloud. I keep talking about how we're going through this AI revolution at the moment, but we've got to remember that cloud technology was probably even bigger for us, right? Like the cloud revolution gave us real-time information. Like suddenly I was able to look at my client's data. If they phone me up, I can look at my client's data, and we take it for granted now, right? But if a client phones me up, I can look at their data and actually give them some advice and help them and sort things out and fix things for them in collaboration with that client. That was huge, yeah. And back in the day, that was absolutely unheard of. I still was in that period where we were asking clients to send us in. One of my first clients was floppy disk still, right? Like we were still getting floppy disks coming through the post. There was USB drives, and it was solutions where you could send it over the internet. And I'll always remember Sage with their hybrid solution where you both had it installed, but then it went to the cloud and then kind of fed back. And great in concept, but in practice it didn't work very well, right? But that whole idea of having that cloud technology over there, but QuickBooks itself, what really, and I will still live and die on this sword, was their bank reconciliation process, right? Like I could lock down a period, I could have that bank statement in my hand, I could confirm it to what was in that client's bank account, and I could then lock it so that no changes could be made, or if they did get made, I had this wonderful audit trail to go through from there. And that really kind of helped me kind of go through there, because it wasn't just my banks that I was reconciling at that point. I was reconciling all sorts of things back in the day. It was superannuation statements and GMS statements, which might mean nothing to a lot of people out there, but they're really like niche areas that if we didn't get right and we didn't have the ability to lock it down, it could cause us major issues in actually producing the work for a client. So yeah, for me, it was that too. It was the advent of cloud, obviously will always be, such a major milestone. But also that I still go back to it, and I still can't believe that other competitors haven't just copied that one feature, right? That bank reconciliation feature. It seems so simple, so straightforward. There's almost like there's this push against it from the accounting and bookkeeping community, because we're like, well, we don't need to reconcile. We got bank feeds now. It's like, well, yeah, I've got plenty of examples where that bank feed's not worked as it should do. So yeah, I think just having that bank reconciliation just gives that nice warm blanket, isn't it? And I think as bookkeepers and accountants, we crave those, don't we?
We do. And I think for me, Friday just gone, I did a really massive bank reconciliation. And the end of it, it reminded me why I love being a bookkeeper. The fact that the balances always had to be zero. And the fact is, it looked messy because the transfers from different savings accounts to ones were all in the wrong place, and I was able to identify and move them back to the right place and tidy it up. And it gave you a real buzz, the fact that you know that information, whoever's going to interpret it now, like the accountants or the client, is factually correct because you put everything in a place. And the tick box is just fabulous. I know I was using Sage for Accountants then, but I do love the QuickBooks Bank Rec as well. I mean, for me, it was how I've been taught years ago with my green pen, ticking it off and making sure that everything matches. And I think as a bookkeeper and accountant, it's just simple things like that that make everything else fall into place and make the figures work.
100%. And you're with me, right? You're technology first. You like helping clients like get the best. And I think one of the best technology from a bank point of view lately has been POTS, right? I mean, we take them for granted now, but they were such a revolution when they first came out, right? POTS or whatever, the envelopes or whatever the term is that they have. But as a bookkeeper and accountant, we hated them, didn't we? Because they were so confusing, so complicated. And again, because QuickBooks just made reconciliation work, there was ways, and it was a bit of a hack, but using sub-accounts and everything else, we were able to create it so that we could finally, for the first time in any software, we could reconcile those parts, reconcile those accounts to make them actually work. And I think that's what I mean by, I 100% agree that Xero, I think, has a much stronger and like tighter solution. And I think that's brilliant for certain clients out there. And I think, you know, there are clients and accountants and bookkeepers who love that and have done really well on that. And that's why they're market leader, right? But if you try and go outside of that, or you need something that's a little bit more niche or a little bit more wacky or a little bit more, you know, you're hacky, if you like, right? Xero doesn't really give us that opportunity to do that. And that's why I love QuickBooks, because it's a more of a toolbox, right? Here's the tools. Yes, you know, you might have to, you know, be a bit out of the wild. You might have to do something a little bit different than you probably used to, or, you know, bend the rules slightly or whatever it's going to be. But it gives you the tools to go out there and deliver what you need to for a client. And I think that's why I've always loved QuickBooks for that purpose.
So can you talk us through a kind of normal day with your process with QuickBooks? Because obviously QuickBooks is actually an end-to-end software as it is now. It's really kind of taken on that extra modules. It's really upped its game with everything from either the data extraction, bringing the data into QuickBooks as well with its own sort of capture software. Can you talk us how you use it from sort of in your daily workflow, so that maybe people who aren't familiar with QuickBooks can get an idea of the capacity and the real boost it can do to businesses?
I love this question. So for me, if I take a typical client, right, we do a lot of e-commerce clients. That's been one of our niches we've done really well in the past. So typically for us, it's making sure the account's connected. That, you know, that goes without saying these days. And we'll make sure that bank's actually been, you know, all the transactions have been posted from there. But also we can connect directly to eBay and Amazon. And they've got this nice little feature that not a lot of people are aware of, where you can bring those eBay and Amazon completely free of charge directly into the product. And it basically mimics the bank transactions page. It's called app transactions. So we'll be getting data in from there. You've mentioned how we can get data in through OCR extraction as well. And that's typically, we will get our clients to use their mobile phone to take the photos and bring that information in. And also we're using QuickBooks a lot lately for being able to have collaboration with clients. So a brand new feature that got released literally like 2 weeks ago was what they call in AI collaboration. And the idea there is, if I found a transaction on the bank that I'm not 100% sure of, I can ask the question using AI to kind of generate what the question is going to be. And then what I can do is send that request to the client. And the cool thing about this is it's using what's called Magic Link. So instead of them having to log into their app or, you know, being there, they you know, you can password protect or you can leave it open, but if you send them that link via any solution you want to, so, you know, I'll send it directly from my practice management solution, for example, get it over to them, one link, they can see it from there, and it'll be asking them the question, right, you've had this transaction, it's for X amount on this day, can you give me some information about it? Okay, yeah. And they can type an actual just words, you know, have a conversation about it. And the beauty of it is it's then the generative AI is going to reply straight away back and give them some context to it. So if you've said, oh, it was for we took our client for entertainment or this or whatever it's going to be, right? That will then come back with, you know, added queries. So it would prompt at that point, can we have the receipt, for example? All right, yeah, here's a receipt, take a photo or upload or whatever it's going to be. And my favorite bit about it is that AI will also go at that point to go, oh no, that's not the right receipt, or thanks. And it will give like feedback straight away of what that's going to be. And I've already had, my clients telling me at the moment that it feels like it doesn't matter what time of day that they need to contact us or get, clarifications, we're getting instant responses back from there. So even if I'm asleep, I've got these AIs that are actually helping our clients from giving them some context to it, right? Like, no, that's not the right receipt. We were asking for this receipt, or that's the wrong date, or whatever it's going to be, right? And that means that when come back into the software, when we've had that data gathering exercise happen, we can just get on with the work and make those decisions. Do we need to restrict it for the partners, for example, of a Christmas do or whatever it's going to be, right? I can make those decisions. I can get that on with it because I've let the AI kind of go through from there. So, it's evolving, and I feel like that's the beauty of our industry at the moment. This sort of technology wasn't available, like, what was it, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was, I got early access to, but now it's available to everyone. But it was, before that, it was a much more long-winded way of getting information and getting requests and all that sort of stuff. So that's why, when you ask someone what their day-to-day is like at the moment, it's changing literally on a day-by-day basis, because we're getting this new technology coming through. We're getting this new solutions coming through all the time. You mentioned bank reconciliation, right? I've been playing with the new bank reconciliation AI, where literally I grab a bank statement, I put it into the software, and it will line by line do it for me. It will extract every line for me, go through it all, find all the problems for me directly in QuickBooks. And then I'm able to go, oh, okay, that's what it's, this period was missed, or, oh, it's duplicated those transactions. And I'm getting that instant feedback without, as you said there, like ticking it up as you go and going through and going through from there. So yeah, our daily use of software at the moment, thanks to AI and the pace of change at the moment, right, is changing on a day by day, hour by hour basis in some instances.
Are there any clever automations or are there some key tips you've set up to make your life easier using QuickBooks? Because obviously you are the QuickBooks Chap. You do give us loads of help and advice on your YouTube channel, but is there anything clever that you've really set up that's sort of, oh, that's done that for me, and I can actually duplicate that with other clients?
Yeah, for me, and it's one I keep coming back to, is control accounts. And again, this is why I feel like QuickBooks gives us the tools, right? And we have a toolbox and we can utilize them. So for me, control accounts has been so powerful for a lot of things, because we're in a world where we want to have, the ability to bring data in from other resources, right? Is it going to be eBay? Is it going to be EPOS system? Is it going to be a POS system? Is it going to be, thanks to ChatGPT, we can literally get anything into a format that we can bring in from any system now. That can be our bridge if we need it to be. And that's really, really good. And that's, I highly recommend people to automate as much as possible, getting the data in one way or another. But things happen, right? We could be a penny out because of rounding a VAT. We could have a period where we're missing stuff. We could have a period where we're having problems. And if you post that directly to the bank account, because that's where your payout's from, that could become an absolute nightmare when it comes to reconciliations and trying to keep things clean. And you're just asking for, at some point, problems, right? And issues. If you just take a step back, put it into a control account first, so that when that payout reaches your bank account, that goes directly in the control account. And when all these other transactions, however many there's going to be, goes against it and comes into that control account as well, then you should have confidence then, right? Because either that control account is going to be the number you expected, so the payout is going to be, or it might even become zero. We all love a zero, right? Then that gives us that opportunity. And again, use the tools within QuickBooks, reconcile that control account as you're going along, because then you're going to know that at the end, if there is a problem, you can always go back to a particular period, right? Like if you reconciled last month and this month's not working, well, you've only got 1 month to look through. Whereas if you haven't been able to keep on top of that, and you haven't been able to use that control account to all its strengths, that's when you have problems. So for me, a good control account, I try and incorporate it in near enough every type of client. I mean, we deal with, again, a lot of e-commerce clients, a lot of POS clients, a lot of those sort of ones where it's high volumes of data that we just need to have confidence in that they're coming through correctly. And a control account is just that nice, neat, because back to your point, a nice little tip box. And my final bit of tips on it is that in QuickBooks, you have this working papers area. So you can go into it and you see a holistic view of all your clients' chart of accounts. And there's literally a tick box there. So you can tick to say who's prepared it, tick to say who's reviewed it. And there's a little area to add some supporting documents to it as well. So when you're going through your control accounts at the end of the year, tick, 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 tick. Yep. That's that confidence that you were talking about before. That's what I absolutely love about it.
Fabulous. Would you say QuickBooks has helped you scale, save time, or even keep your sanity running your practice?
Definitely sanity. Yeah, 100%. I think it goes more than that. I think, if I'm completely honest, and I think Xero's made a big part of this as well. I don't think a lot of, especially the people you're talking to on your podcast, like, I don't think a lot of us would be around doing our own practices if it wasn't for QuickBooks and Xero, right? And Sage and the other cloud accounting software solutions out there. I feel like it was such a big shift in our industry. It gave us the confidence to go out there and start our own practices and change it and be disruptive and, try new things and try and be, a bit more, unique to clients in certain ways and try and give those USPs for them. I think that's to me what QuickBooks, Xero, Sage, the list goes on. That's what that's brought to the industry. It's opened up the gates for new practices to come along. And because of that, we then have the opportunity to scale because of it and because we started, right? But the beauty of, and what I feel like one of QuickBooks' biggest strengths is it doesn't have this predefined lane that you have to be in for a certain type of client. As I said before, it's got these nice little tools you can click on and use, and there's a whole app ecosystem that could go with it. But I think it goes more than that because they've concentrated on the smaller market and now they're concentrating on the bigger market as well, right? So literally it's endless in the QuickBooks ecosystem for what type of client you want. They've released a solution called QuickBooks Sole Trader, which I would say is up there with the best, if not one of the best MTD products on the market. You literally can use AI. So as long as you've attached a bank account, it will auto categorize everything for you. For MTD, absolute gold dust for us, right? Because the biggest problem we're going to have is getting that information in and getting that information something on a quarterly basis. If we can have automation to help us, if we can have that confidence that it's going to be there or thereabouts, and we'll probably need to check it for the year end, but for our quarterly submissions we're going to be in a position where we're compliant. I'm all up for that, and I feel like QuickBooks has got that end of the spectrum, but also we've got QuickBooks Advanced that goes for multi-billion clients, and then they're releasing next year QuickBooks Intuit Enterprise Suite, which will be that ERP system. So we're going up even another level, right, for multi-entity clients and all that sort of stuff. And it's all based on the same platform. So you literally could have a client that starts off from their kitchen sink and they go all the way up to an ERP system, and they could have that whole journey through QuickBooks. And I think that, to me, that's what gives me that sanity that you mentioned there, right? Because I know that I've got a solution that I don't need to compromise on, I don't need to worry about. And I think that's where, for a practice like us, we have that USP that we're gonna, really push for as much as we possibly can.
Are there any common mistakes you see other users have when using QuickBooks? Because obviously, I've noticed when I first used QuickBooks many years ago, I didn't even know where the bank reconciliation bit was. So I mean, it's not clearly kind of when you go bank manager, but there's got to be some common mistakes that people sort of think that when using it, they obviously make mistakes. Have you seen any?
Oh yeah, yes, and yes. I mean, the common one is going to be, there's a debate, isn't there? When you look at the competitors out there, when you go to your bank screen, some of them call that reconciliation, and they say you're going to reconcile directly from the screen, and then others like QuickBooks is more of you're going to post it from there. And I feel like there's a debate which is right or wrong, and especially when it comes to putting transactions in, because one thing that Xero and Free Agent do really well is they almost restrict you from adding a transaction unless they're really confident that it's right. Sometimes you have to jump through multiple hoops to get that transaction in, and I think as bookkeepers and accountants we really appreciate that, don't we? Because that gives us confidence it's been put right first time. Whereas QuickBooks definitely has leaned more towards let's just get the data in, and then we've got loads of tools to make it clean if we need to, right? And there's a debate of which way is right or wrong. And when that definitely becomes a problem is when you end up double counting, right? You mentioned there about transfers and stuff like that, right? When we've already got a transfer there and the system's not matching against it, or multi-currency, for example, where people haven't, gone through it and consume the training on how to deal with multi-currency. Multi-currency is one of the few instances where in QuickBooks where you have to do it a certain way, which is the zero and the free agent way. You have to do it this way, and if you do it this way, you're gonna have no problems. And in QuickBooks, they don't do that very often, but when they do, if you don't follow those steps, then you're gonna make an absolute mess of it. And I feel like that's one of the downfalls of QuickBooks from time to time, where it's so like, open over here, get the data in, and we'll again, we've got these tools to fix it later, and get all this in for now so that you can have real-time information and you can make good business decisions. And it's like, yeah, okay. So people are then used to that, right? So when it becomes something really complicated, like multi-currency, for example, and exchange rate differences and all that sort of stuff, it's almost like it's like a thing of its own success, right? Because it's like made it so easy for people to add stuff and add transactions that they're just adding the transaction because that's how they've always added it, right? Whereas multi-currency, there is a prescribed way of doing it where you're supposed to match, go into the prime record, pay it off in the prime record first, state where it's going to be, and then you're going to have to make it kind of work from there. So I feel like that's where people make the most amount of mistakes, is when you've got that more complex transaction, and you're just posting it like you would anywhere else, and because there's nothing stopping you and restricting you, then that's where people are making those sort of mistakes. But there's quite a bit of a content out there on the old YouTubes that can help you get that right if you need to.
If you had a magic wand and could change anything about QuickBooks, what would you improve, or are you quite happy with it? I know this is probably a really random question for you.
Oh, I love it. And I'm definitely not, it's not the finished article one bit. I mean, I think one of the unique bits you have about QuickBooks compared to the others is that, well, they have their main solution in the US, and then they have another solution in Canada, and then we have another solution here, and then there's a fourth solution with what they call rest of the world. So it's not even a case of, for me, it's not even a case of going, well, I wish it had this and I wish I had that and wish I had that. What I want and what I'm constantly giving feedback for and constantly like pushing for is that I wish we had more feature parity around the world, right? There's too many instances. I mean, even as a UK, we have some solutions and settings that the US and Canada don't have, right? And then I go and open up a US one and they've got this fancy solution, and I go to the Canada, they've got this fancy solution, right? That's what I would want to change more than anything else. It's not a case that, I want to completely change this or change that and fix this and fix that. I just want that feature parity, just so we could have that level playing field, so that then we can go, right, okay, which part of this, if we had, one UI to rule them all sort of thing, that's when we can have those really important conversations, right? Where should we put the resources in next to improve on that? For me, it'd be working papers would need need some enhancements to really shine, but we can't really do that when our working papers is different to Canada's and Canada's is different to the US, right? Like, until they're all one product and we've got the same platform to build on, there's no real benefit from us kind of fighting for this or fighting for that enhancement or putting this in. I think the concentration, and I know that they're in the background, that's what they're trying to do, but I'm impatient and it's not here yet. So for me, I just want to have that one. And sometimes it's good because sometimes I can almost beta test it over in another country and say, oh, this really doesn't work. Infamously, I did that over the fixed asset register, right? Like, they released this fixed asset register. I looked at it day one in the US product. I was like, this isn't a fixed asset register, and this is, this will not wash in the UK market, right? So sometimes it can have its benefits and everything, but yeah, if we could just have that feature parity across the globe, I would be so happy.
Would you recommend it to every bookkeeper and accountant, or is there certain types of clients that you think would be better in different practices for QuickBooks? Because obviously you've mentioned that it's quite universal, it's very adaptable to different situation. So do you think it's a universal product that works with most practices and different clients out there?
I would do, but I'd also say that, you know, I'm hypocritical on that because I'm still using Xero for certain clients, right? If they need approvals, right? Xero's still got a better solution for approvals than QuickBooks has one, but it's not as good. You know, if we've got landlords and we've got multiple properties and stuff, I'm still using Hammock or Free Agent. You know, I'm using those sort of things. So it's not. I don't think there's any solution out there, especially for the FMS world, or I generally hate that term, but the book accounting and bookkeeping software solution world. I don't think there is one shoe that fits all. And I would say that I feel like that more than anything needs to be applied for the likes of MTD, right? And I would challenge people out there. Yeah, okay, QuickBooks isn't going to be the right solution for every single client out there, because even I don't use it for every single client. But that has to be said for the other solutions out there as well. And I think with MTD coming along and with all these other changes that we're having to go through at the moment, with, you know, this whole lease and IS 16 and all those changes coming, right, now's the time to start looking at your tech stack and start thinking, actually, is one solution the right solution for us, right? Yeah, as a practice, you probably want to specialize in one, and I highly recommend that, and get absolutely au fait in one of them so that you've got that competitive advantage. But I do think you need to be able to be aware of what else the industry's got, because that's when you're going to be able to apply the right software to the right client. MTD, for example, for me, it's Sage or it's QuickBooks at this point in time as the you know, the winner for you know, automation. And then after that, it's Free Agent because of the price point and you know, and the usability. Unfortunately for me, Xero doesn't have an MTD offering. And I think if you're a Xero only practice, for example, this is the time to look out then. I'm not saying QuickBooks is the right answer. I'm not saying Xero is the right answer. I'm not saying Free Agent is the right, or Sage. I'm saying you just need to have that awareness of all of them, because at least then you're going to make that right solution for your client. And I think MTD more than anything, where, you know, there's so much little meat on the bone for us to be working with, we need to be making sure the right software fits the right client.
Have you paired it with any other tools to supercharge it? I think you've mentioned a few already, but obviously the app stack world is massive at the moment. But I do think a lot of the app stack world favour Xero, and this is where I completely challenge that fact, because I use probably the top 4 softwares to do bookkeeping for clients, and it's not nice having different solutions that from different software vendors, because you can't have it on all of them. But what are the key things that you sort of supercharged QuickBooks with? Which apps have you supercharged it with?
I think some of the ones that you probably, all your guests will talk about, is things like Apron, right? Like Universal works on everything. The ability for me to extract the data and get the data in there, brilliant. But actually for me, a whole new price service was offering clients the ability to make payments on their behalf, right? Where we can use the Apron Pay Now system, where it's them doing that final approval. That's so important, right? Like, yeah, we can advise you to make payment to X, Y, Z, but really you have to, as the client, you have to make that final approval. You have to make that final decision, and we can advise you what we believe is right. But again, you have to make that final. So Apron bringing in things like that was brilliant. So I feel like Apron's a really good solution of where it all comes. But outside of that, like more maybe niche ones that other people might not talk about, we use a solution called GACom. And there's various ones out there, but what GACom does really well is it gets your data within QuickBooks and it then brings it into Google Sheets or Excel. And QuickBooks actually have this as a functionality built directly in now. It's called a spreadsheet sync. And there are other ones out there like LiveFlow and everything else. But if you find a solution that can basically replicate your QuickBooks data into a G Sheet, into Excel, there's so much power that you can have from that. So we've used it for clients where we've built them bespoke data boards where they can kind of get information that they need to, bespoke cash flow forecasting. But what we're using it in our practice, I think's really helped us kind of scale and really helped us make sure we don't drop the ball, is little things like our invoicing we do directly for QuickBooks. So if we're invoicing a client, then that's got to be a real good indication of what services we should be providing for them on a monthly basis, for example. And bookkeeping is one service where we grab the data from QuickBooks. So we grab those invoices we made on a monthly basis. If they have bookkeeping in their line item as a service we're providing, then that feeds into our actual task management solution. So for us, we're always providing clients with bookkeeping solutions and services when they pay for it, because some clients will decide to take a month off or decide to take over themselves or bring it in because they need it for a month, right? Like, it's bookkeeping in our world is quite fluid. It's a solution that not all our clients take on, and not all our clients will always need on every single monthly solution. So we needed a task management solution that's really dynamic, and just taking the data through QuickBooks and that invoice, because at the end of the day, the invoice has to be right because the client's paid for it, right? So they're expecting that service of us. So being able to kind of use that as our back-end database for our task management solution has been revolutionary, because then we can have that data coming in, and then from there we can have like clever things like a bit more of we can have more opportunities to deliver how we're going to deliver that solution, right? So it doesn't have to be alphabetical, for example, of the client A always gets their bookkeeping done first and client Z gets it later. We can have an algorithm that goes, actually, well, this client's got this many transactions coming in, and with GAcom you can actually bring in the transactions they've got. So a bit like your Zenons of the world and all that lot, where we're looking into clients' actual general ledgers to get like information about it. Well, we're using GAcom to do that, but that means that we can then have this really sophisticated database, which not only means we don't drop the ball, so that we're delivering the services clients want from us because it's what they've paid for, but also we can have how many transactions they've got, and if their director's loan's overdrawn, and we can have all these other trigger points. That means that it should, and the algorithm we built behind the scenes means that the clients that need our assistance the most gets to the top of the list, and those clients that ticking over quite happy, they'll be the bottom list. They'll get to at some point, but we're trying to react to the clients that really need our help first and foremost. And it's all driven by the fact that this GAcom software can basically grab the data that we have within QuickBooks and then bring it into an Excel or G Sheet spreadsheet, and then that forms the basis of our database that can kind of build all this. So not something that I think is easily replicated by people, but it is something to definitely have a think about and go to. And one of the things that I think works really nicely with QuickBooks is if you get it right, you can even set up hyperlinks, and these hyperlinks can be direct you directly to where that needs to be in the client's record. So we have on that database that we've built not only what client that needs to be bookkeeping first, but a link to that client and a link to that client's banking area as well, and a link to that client's reconciliation area. And so it makes it whoever's doing the bookkeeping a nice, easy solution for them, and they can quickly get to the place they do. It's one click and then taken to that client, to that area. So yeah, definitely have a look at them. There's plenty of them out there, but you want to, I really highly recommend looking into a solution where it can take client data and put it into an Excel spreadsheet for you. And if you can have that live, like our solution is, there's so many options you can have built on there.
Apart from QuickBooks, what are your three other top apps in your tech stack? What are your three go-to ones? So obviously you've got QuickBooks at the top. What's your next three?
Engager has to be up there, right? Like, that's how we're running our practice, sending out messages and everything else. Microsoft Teams, like, we wouldn't be where we are without Microsoft Teams. The ability for us to not only have communication with our teams and have those conversations. We're fully remote in Boffic, so we without that we wouldn't have where we got. But also that's how we communicate with our clients, because not only do I have Teams calls with them where all AI is scribed and everything else, brilliant, but also I'm having the opportunity to have telephone calls through that as well, because we pay for the telephone through there as well, right? So literally it is every element of talking to our client, our team. And then my final one is quite a new one. It's Atlas, which is OpenAI's browser. What I love about that is you've got that chat GPT element there, so you can it can read the page for you and give answers and everything else. But also you can set agents going. So we have an agent running, normally it's on that computer behind me, where it will just go in once a day and it will triage all the messages and all the tickets we've had in that, and it will just pass it around to the relevant departments for us. And we've got it set for once a day, but we could set it for multiple times a day. We can have it going through and all that sort of stuff. And that's really given us an opportunity to go, right, okay, we've saved time on there. Where else can we put that time? What can we do with that? How can we add value to our clients? And it's really interesting when you start kind of automating those really straightforward solutions and everything else, and bits that aren't going to hurt anyone. If a ticket's gone to the wrong person for someone, they'll just pass it back to the right person, right? But it's the ability there for us to just have that automation that I think is really key.
I use Perplexity and Comet. I think that's brilliant as well.
Yeah.
And I love the assistant in that can come in and jump on and do agent stuff as well. So yeah, there is loads of things out there. I think it's just making sure you get the right level of security as well and the right thing, but they all work with you, not against you.
100%. I think the only other thing we need is better ways to trigger them. And that's the only thing I can't get my head around. A really secure and like one that we can have confidence on, and right, I want you to do this at this time, at this point. Yeah. Once we can set that, I think I think the opportunity then is endless for us, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I have mine go through my schedule on my Microsoft Outlook every morning, telling me where the gaps are in my day that I can do my bookkeeping, and then it blocks it out. So, and I have that done at 7:30 every morning. It automatically does that, but it's taken me a very long time to get the prompt to get it right for it to work. Yeah. And the more you use it, the more it learns. So it now blocks it out, and it does work. And I'm a great believer of using AI as a helper, but not to replace me. So
love that. Yeah, 100% agree on that.
How often do you review or update your tech stack? I know I'm very passionate. I speak on stages telling everybody to review it quite regularly. I've actually just gone through a major overhaul of mine. That's something that was great, but because I use so many different other bookkeeping solutions and that isn't compatible, I was paying a lot of money for just a couple of clients, so I had to review it harshly like that. How often do you sort of review yours?
I mean, we kind of cheat, right? Because we have the podcast, so we're constantly kind of talking about news about the new software here, the new release there. So we're always going to have that kind of inside knowledge of what's been released and when it's been released. But generally, we review ours on a monthly basis. Like there'll be something changed or something updated on a monthly basis. And especially, we're going through an acquisition phase at the moment, so we're acquiring practices, and that means we're changing their solutions, or we're being shown a whole new use case for a particular app, right? And going, oh wow, like you've been using this for so long, like who's us to say to come along and say, no, you should be using this direct debit solution, for example, right? And I feel like that's the beauty of our community, right? Because we're all so much more. It's all competition over collaboration over competition, should I say, right? So there's so much chatter going on this podcast like yours. Like we can listen in on what people are doing and how that, and open our eyes to actually, you know what, we should be considering this or we should be doing that. Because like my analogy, like you love your F1, right?
Yeah.
We're in that pit lane at the moment, and we're all figuring out how do we make those pit stops as quick as possible, because that's what we're providing, right? Clients bringing in their broken, tires are almost finished F1 car, and we're getting them sent out there nice and clean and tidy. That's what a bookkeeper and accountant does for them for that service, right? And we're cleaning it up and making it ready to race again. And I feel like we've got to the position where we're all really like honed in, but there's still seconds to cut here, there's still seconds to cut there, right? Like for us to really like push the boundaries, we need to be looking at our tech stack on a regular basis, because that's how we, outpace it and get ourselves back more time. And I'm all about trying to find time for my team, because the more time I can get them back, the more good they can do.
Yeah. What is your key advice to anybody who feels overwhelmed by all the software choices out there at the moment? Now, we all go to these fabulous events, but we all come home thinking, oh my God, I've seen a bright, shiny new thing. We get overwhelmed with the fact that we need to think, or we watch like our podcasts and think, oh, they're using that, maybe I should use that. And it does get overwhelming after a while. What is your key advice on that?
Well, my key advice actually is a bit of a plea to the community, because and I'm not bigging myself up here, but QuickBooks Chap is designed for that exact reason, right? The whole point of QuickBooks Chap is to go, let's take this really niche part of QuickBooks and let's expand on it and go. And you're either going to watch it or you're not. But the people who watch it, it's because they want that comfort factor. They want to understand it. They want to go through it, right? So, and I know that that's really helped people in the community. I know that's really helped clients. And, I've had the feedback. I know that's working. I know that's a really good way of people to understand and absorb and, like you said, not be overwhelmed by that piece of technology or that change, especially now the AI agents are here and all that sort of stuff, right? My videos are going through the roof at the moment because of all the new changes, right? Because people are overwhelmed or worried and they don't like all the changes and everything else. But it's just me in that one space for QuickBooks. If I could ask for anything, I would want a zero chap or chapette or whatever it's called, right? A sage person and a free agent person, more QuickBooks people, right? Like that. Again, competition, collaboration over competition, right? I just feel like in the industry, if we could find more and more of those bits, of those helps and that kind of resource, I think that's the way to give people that confidence, and that's the way that we can do better. And we've got brilliant podcasts like yours, and there's ones like that, and that's like the almost like the starting point, isn't it, to get people to start thinking about it. But then their next step really should be like a nice little video on how to do that, right? And I feel like we just don't have enough of those next steps, those nice little videos.
No, I totally agree. Right, we're on to the quick fire round now, so towards the end. iPhone or Android?
iPhone. There's no choice.
Zero QuickBooks or Sage?
Oh, hard one. QuickBooks.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
One piece of tech or business wisdom you wish you'd learned at the beginning rather than now?
Oh, great question. One bit of tech. Oh, I think for me, and it's a bit long-winded to explain it, but I have this new piece of tech where when I go to anywhere, I can have and create my own Wi-Fi. So the idea is that I can connect to any roaming Wi-Fi or any 5G or anything, and then all my devices can connect to it. That has completely changed the way that I travel now, because I'm not having to put the same Wi-Fi code into multiple devices. I just get this one piece of tech. It's a little modem thing that's really, really small. I get that up and running, and then every device I've got has got internet, and that has absolutely changed the way I do it.
Right, my final question for you today. What app do you think is underrated and deserves a little bit more love?
What app is underrated at this point in time? Ooh. See, a lot of mine I feel like are already rated. I tell you what has not got enough love lately, and I think is absolutely changing me, is Canva. So Canva's got this, people see it as just a marketing tool, right? And I completely see that. I completely understand why. But actually, they've got a really good database element to it as well that can be really interactive. You can create apps on it now. You can do all sorts of things. I'm seeing, and I'm doing notes on it. I'm doing all sorts. I feel like for me, Canva's become one of those tools where it's the best collaborative, one of the best collaborative tools out there, right? Me and another member of the team can be on Canva. We can brainstorm ideas. We can connect databases to it. We can have all this thing. We can move things around and all this sort of stuff, because it was built for collaboration first. Absolutely brilliant tool. It just getting problem solving done. Like if you've got a client that might have a messy workflow, or you got a client who might have like a really complicated solution that you're trying to work out how you're going to connect this database to that database, that sort of thing, start in Canva. Use that as like your tool of mapping out what you want to do, because you can have multiple people going in. The client can be in there with you as well. Yeah, it's really underrated. But as I guess a whiteboard, I suppose, is what it is, right? Like a virtual whiteboard. I haven't found a better solution out there. I know you can pay to have like dedicated whiteboards and all this, that, and the other, but you always find restrictions. Whereas Canva has just got everything in there that you could ever need. Love it.
That's brilliant. So thank you very much for letting me interview you today. It's been very, very insightful, and hopefully we've shared a bit of love about bank reconciliations in QuickBooks. So where can everybody find you if they want to connect with you on social media or on YouTube or wherever you like?
So the best thing to search for is the QuickBooks Chap, and you've got a little name up there. I've got link trees and all that sort of stuff where you can find everything else. Or Ask the Accountant, where we go live each and every Monday morning for 8:30, where you can listen into all the new latest gossip. So yeah, I think that's the best place for me.
So
And thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this.
No, I've enjoyed it. It's been fabulous. So thank you for everybody for listening, and join us again next week for another episode. So thank you very much.
Bye.